Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
You probably get this a lot. This isn't the real Caesar's palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did, um... Did Caesar live here?
No.
I didn't think so.
What you need to do is be thankful for the life you got, you know.
Allen was not standing in the true home of the great Julius Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar was a Roman politician and a military general who played a critical role in the events that led to the demise of the Roman Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire.
Julius Caesar was one of the most famous plays written by William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was an English poet and playwright. His plays were translated into over 50 languages and performed across the globe. He was born on April 23rd in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon. He began writing sonnets and poems before he became an established playwright. He wrote 154 sonnets and 38 total plays. His works spanned tragedies, comedies, and historical works, both in poetry and plays. Some of Shakespeare's most popular plays were Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, and of course, the iconic Julius Caesar. When he was 18, he married Anne Hathaway and had 3 children, Hamnet, Judith, and Susan. Shakespeare was part of the Lord Chamberlain's men as well as the King's men. His plays performed in the Globe Theatre. He was a partial owner. During his times as a playwright, he was seen as an Elizabeth playwright during the time. Tragically, Shakespeare died on April 23rd, 1616, to an unknown cause, and is buried at Stratford's Holy Trinity Church.
Brutus is the central character in the play Julius Caesar. He is part of the Senate of Rome that is handpicked by their dictator Julius Caesar. Caesar is an extremely arrogant man and rules Rome as a dictatorship rather than it was previously as a republic. Caesar is fond of the character Mark Antony in the play and likes him so much because someone that enjoys drinking and other activities enjoys life more. Throughout the play, Brutus is held back by the character Cassius. Cassius is attempting to make Brutus stand up to Caesar and put a halt to his power. After throwing rocks with notes attached to them through his window and leaving notes on his desk, Brutus agrees to be part of a conspiracy against Julius Caesar, and the conspirators gather at his house later that night. There are many dramatic events leading up to the assassination of Julius Caesar. Caesar is warned of the day of his death, March 15th, by a fortune teller, and later that night, a thunderstorm where the lightning strikes are so bright that it appears as if it is raining fire comes down upon the city of Rome. One day, Caesar is planning on not going to the Senate at the wishes of his wife before a conspirator says he will look weak if he does not go to the Senate. All of these events lead up to the eventual assassination of Julius Caesar.
Act 3, Scene 2 has many important characters that contribute to the conflict of Caesar's funeral. Of course, Julius Caesar is the big topic of the whole play, and he is especially in this scene. The scene follows the tragedy of the murdering of Julius Caesar by the senators because he was suspected as a tyrant.
Brutus, the master of the tyrants, is present in this scene. Brutus plays a tragic hero, a husband, and a military leader. Even though Brutus respects Julius greatly, he joins the other members in the assassination that shows the evil callousness and gross indifference to the ties of his relationship with Caesar. But it was also a failure to be moved by the power of the truly brave man. Brutus is even described as the noblest of the Romans by another important character, Mark Antony. And for this, Brutus chooses Antony to have the opportunity to speak alongside with him at the funeral over Caesar's body. The audience of this short section is the plebeians. They are very loyal to Brutus and they decide to let him speak. Most of them primarily want Caesar to live throughout Brutus as the king, but later Cassius will change this.
Leading up to the scene, the senators enter the Senate and Cassius worries that people are discovering the plot of the assassination. The senators begin to bow at Caesar's feet and plead for him to allow his brother, Publius Cimber, who has been banished from Rome, to be allowed back into the city, but Caesar refuses. After this, Cassius goes to kneel in front of Caesar and stabs him with the rest of the conspirators, including Brutus. The conspirators leave the Senate, and Antony's servant appears with news from Mark Antony pertaining to the death of Caesar. After Antony sees Caesar's body, he proclaims that if they are to kill him, then to do it now, but they refuse. All will be revealed to Antony in due time to learn why the conspirators have killed the great Julius Caesar.
We will be performing a selection from Act 3, Scene 2, which displays Brutus giving an earnest, honest, and simple speech surrounded by crowds of common folks and over Caesar's dead body.
We will be satisfied. Let us be satisfied.
Then follow me and give me audience. Friends, Cassius, go into the other street and part the numbers. Those that will hear me speak, stay here, and those that will follow Cassius, go follow him. And public reasons shall be rendered of Caesar's death.
I will hear Brutus speak. I will hear Cassius and compare their reasons, when severally we hear them rendered. The noble Brutus has ascended. Silence!
Be patient to the last. Romans, countrymen, and lovers, hear for my cause and be silent. That you may hear, believe me for my honor, and have my respect to my honor. That you may believe, censure me in your wisdom, and awake your senses. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him say, that Brutus' love to Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar were living and die all slaves than that Caesar were dead, to live all free men? As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was violent, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. Who is here so base that would be a bondman? If any speak for him, have I offended? Who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any speak for him, have I offended? Who is here so vile that will not love his country? If any speak for him, have I offended? I pause for a reply. All right, then none I have offended.
Bring him with triumph home unto his house.
Give him a statue with his ancestors.
Let him be Caesar.
Caesar's better parts will be crowned in Brutus.
We'll bring him to his house with shouts and clamors.
My countrymen.
Silence. Brutus speaks.
Peace, ho!
Good countrymen, let me depart alone, and for my sake stay here with Antony.
Let us hear Mark Antony.
Let him go into the public chair. We'll hear him. Noble Antony, go up.
For Brutus' sake, I am beholding to you.
What does he say of Brutus?
He says for Brutus' sake, he finds himself beholding to us all.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interned with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. Noble Brutus has said that Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, then it was a grievous fault. And grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men, come I to speak at Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me, but Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives here to Rome, whose ransom did the general coffers fill. When the poor have cried, Caesar wept. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, and he refused every time. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but I am here to speak what I know. You all did love Caesar once, and without him, Rome would be nothing.
The section immediately following the death scene and funeral scene of Julius Caesar is filled with emotion and anger among plebeians and the citizens of Rome. The citizens hear of Caesar's generosity when he gives all of his riches to the people of Rome, as well as making his private land and parks public. When the citizens hear how noble and generous Caesar was, they began to revolt and run Claudius and Brutus out of Rome for ruthlessly murdering Julius Caesar. Despite Antony repeatedly calling them honorable men, once Brutus and Claudius are run out of Rome by the Plebeians, they confuse a man on the seat as Claudius, the conspirators, when in actual it is Cinna, the poet. Regardless of the fact that they wronged Cinna, they drag him off and beat him to death. The scene ends Act 3 and begins Act 4.
The selection we chose to act out is extremely important in the play Julius Caesar. It is important because it is the most impactful scene in the play. The scene shows the true feeling of both men speaking at the funeral, Brutus and Mark Antony. Antony talks about the wonders of Caesar and the great respect he has for Brutus. But along with this leads to the Romans running Brutus and Cassius out of Rome after they find out that they have killed their beloved leader. Mark Antony is the most important character in this scene, and he depicts the theme that is shown so often throughout this play, the theme of public versus private. This is how the members of the Senate and hierarchical members of Rome and the normal citizens of Rome interact. Mark Antony begins his speech with one of the most famous lines ever written by Shakespeare. "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears." This shows how Antony is attempting to bring himself to the same societal level of the plebeians and Romans. Antony is also exemplifying what the main theme throughout Julius Caesar is: ambition. Ambition comes in many ways in different forms, but everyone in Rome is greedy and they want the throne and are willing to do most anything to get it. Throughout the play, all characters are always trying to reach for more and get the next best thing. This is exemplified by the conspirators killing Caesar. They are killing him because they want to bring Rome back to the republic it once was, and they want to get rid of Caesar for their own personal gain. Caesar also depicts this theme early in the play when he comes back from the battle with Pompey, and the reason for this battle was to gain more rule over Rome and the surrounding areas.
Audsley from the Royal Shakespeare Company breaks down the story of Julius Caesar. She explains how the political thriller tells the story of the conspiracy against Caesar, his assassination, and the defeat of the conspirators. She explains that the play can be broken down into four main sections of the return, the plot, the assassination, and the new Rome. It ends with the new Rome of Brutus and Cassius facing a defeat in the Philippi, where the meaning of loyalty is shown throughout the play when they kill themselves rather than being captured. The story of Julius Caesar is also given a 3.67 out of 5 by Goodreads.com, which is 11th on the Shakespeare playlist provided by Goodreads, and it follows Romeo and Juliet in that list.
In our opinion, we rate this play out of 4. We believe that this is a fair rating because we think it's very intriguing and that keeps us interested while reading it. We understand it's a very serious play and it's meant to represent the overthrow of an empire and betrayal. The only thing we found missing from the play is Shakespeare's sense of comic relief and use of puns. Compared to his other plays we learned about, we place this pretty high on the rankings. We think that The Twisted Pot is one of the best.